everybody. Welcome to this evening's board meeting. Today is April 7th, 2021, and we are here to commence. So I bring this meeting to order. Samantha Boker, would you be so kind as to call for the order?
Sure. For trustees, Mr. Myoko,
Here?
Mr. Murphy,
Here.
Ms. Weinstein,
Here.
Mr. D'Amato,
Present.
Ms. Carmody,
Here.
Mr. Hardman,
Here.
Mr. Steinman.
Here.
For management, Joe Schultz,
Here.
Jim Snyder,
Here.
Michelle O'Connor, here. Mary Lightfoot,
Here.
Thank you. This evening, we have invited two guests for their presentation.
You've got mail.
Got mail? Excuse me, Mr. Hartman? I didn't catch what you said.
No.
Oh, okay. We have two guests with us this evening. Mike Palulak, who is from McGovern Legal Services. Welcome, Michael. And Tom Mitchell from Mitchell Insurance Services. And thank you both. To everybody at home, we're going to do things just a little bit out of order because of our guests. We've invited Mr. Mitchell to talk to us regarding insurance. There's been a number of questions that have come up about the deductible, when claims have taken place, how to handle them, and also the definition of what's required in an HO6 policy when you're in a village such as ours, when you are the owner, as well as an HO4 when you are a tenant. So without further ado, Tom Mitchell, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Appreciate you sharing a little of your time with me tonight. Some of you may have seen this presentation before. If so, I hope it's just an informative reminder. And those of you that haven't, I hope I shed some light on what the association's master policy provides to give you a little more comfort with what it is you need to be concerned with. The simplest way to explain what the master policy covers is to tell you that we cover every single building and unit in Leisure Village West in its entirety per the builder's original specifications. This is called original specifications coverage. Simply means that it's covered in its identical form as it was the day it was conveyed to the first buyer. Now, of course, these units are 40, 50 years old in many cases. Replacement items would be covered provided you replace them with relative like, kind, and quality. If you or any prior owner has upgraded or replaced any of these items with superior items, hardwood cabinetry, mirrored walls, superior carpeting, high-tech, top-of-the-line appliances, the difference from the original grade to the grade that you now have would be your responsibility. Okay? And I want to repeat this. Any of those upgrades, improvements, additions, and alterations that have been made by any prior owner are the current owner's responsibility to insure. There's a section on your HO6 called improvements and betterments. I'm going to say this throughout this presentation. You want to consult with your insurance agent. They should know what to do with this. You tell them that you're covered for original specs, and they should know the prodding questions to ask you to get you to where you need to be. Now, one of the questions is, how would we know what's original if my unit's 30 years old? A little bit of it could be a crapshoot. The best thing to do if you're really concerned is to look at your neighbor's unit and see what's identical. If the cabinets are identical, there's a good chance those were original installations. If your cabinets are quite a bit better than your neighbor's, they've probably been upgraded. Now, there's a simple way around this, and that is to just purchase, based on the size of your unit, and your agent can guide you with this, purchase a limit of $10,000 or $25,000 worth of improvements and betterments, and know that you've probably got enough coverage. But if you really want to know for absolute sure, you kind of have to look at units in your area and see what's comparable to what you have. At the time of a loss, your adjuster and the association's adjuster will get together. They're very good at this and determining who's responsible for what, and they kind of work these things out behind the scenes. The next thing that you need to be responsible for and concerned with is your personal property. Association's policy provides no coverage for your furnishings, your clothing, your dishes, any collectibles that you have. I always like to remind owners that it's a good opportunity once a year to take your cell phone or a video camera and pan your entire home. Go through your garage and scan all the walls. Go through your cabinets, drawers in your kitchen, open them up. Go through your drawers and closets in your bedroom. You'd be surprised at how much you have that you forget about at the time of a loss. If you can offer a little commentary about brands and things like that, any unique characteristics of some of your personal effects, that would be helpful as well. A serious fire, leaves behind very little in the way of identifying characteristics of furniture and clothing sometimes. Another thing that seems to come as a surprise to residents is that the association does not provide in their policy the cost of you living in another location during the period of restoration. This is called additional living expense, and you are responsible for that as well. These things can go on quite a bit longer than you might think. Some policies automatically include 12 months. Sometimes you can buy it up to 24 months. But you need to speak to your agent about what's automatically included. And I would say err on the high side and think that you could be out of your unit for longer than a year, depending on the circumstances and the size of the building. It does happen. Personal liability. Obviously, we are responsible for all of the common area, the sidewalks, the streets, the amenities. Any slip and falls or bodily injury that occurs there is the responsibility of the association, and they've got substantial liability limits to address that. But anything on the inside of your unit is your responsibility. Somebody trips and falls inside your unit, you'll be the one sued for that, not the association. The deductible brings up some interesting questions. The association passed a resolution some time ago. I'm going to say 2 or 3 years now. I may be wrong on that, but I think it's been that long.
2019.
2019, whereby the unit owner participates in the association's deductible under certain circumstances. Those circumstances are as follows. If the damage is contained to the inside of the unit and all of the elements that the unit owner is responsible to maintain, they would be responsible for the entire deductible. If it involved exterior as well as interior, the deductible would be shared between the unit owner and the association, proportionate to their loss bears to the total loss. If you have a situation as we do right now with some wind damage and trees that came down, all considered one occurrence, the deductible would be shared amongst several unit owners as well as the association. And again, it's all in accordance with the proportion that your loss bears to the total loss. Now, again, there's been some questions as to how to go about that. It's my position that that's supposed to be covered under the building section of your HO6. There are some companies that handle it a little differently. Important that you have this conversation and get a commitment from your agent as to how they're going to ensure this. I think because some companies may not have any other way to address it, they may put it under loss assessment. Now, traditionally, that's not intended for the application of a deductible for a single unit owner. That loss assessment is a coverage that gets triggered when there's a shortfall in insurance and an assessment is made over the entire community equally. Provided it's for something that you would have coverage for under your own policy, the loss assessment will pay your proportionate share. Some companies have sort of altered that coverage when it comes to paying your responsibility for the deductible. My strong suggestion is that you take that amendment and get it in the hands of your agent and say, this is my responsibility. The current deductible is $10,000. So you should never be responsible for any more than that, but you could be responsible for the entirety of that $10,000. That's it in a nutshell. That's the overview, and I'd be happy to field some questions you have the ability to do that.
Well, also, we recently created a policy whereby residents have to have HO6 and HO4 insurance. Some of them are confused on what they need to tell us to give to the office so that we're aware of it. And I think that's as simple as a one page, as a declaration page.
Yeah, you would want your residents to provide you with a deck page annually. That's the cover page of their policy. It gives some basic information, which should include the limits, the minimum limits that you require, and most importantly, the renewal effective date, so that you know that everyone is current.
Now you have to come to me.
There was a question?
We have Joe, before we go to audience, we have a comment from Mr. D'Amato.
Yes, Tom,
Yes.
your additional living expense coverage, you stated 12 to 24 months. Would it be safe to say that having a monetary amount in there would suffice?
Good question. And depending on how your company sells it, that very well may be the case. If that's the case, you sort of have to determine what's a fair rental value of your unit. And you'd purchase that limit times 12 or 24. Some of the companies simplify it and they give you actual loss sustained. So they'll know what's a fair and reasonable amount for you to live elsewhere for 12 to 24 months. But
Yes,
again,
because
it's really
in my
important.
coverage, I have a monetary amount in there that
Okay.
I can increase if so desired.
My suggestion would be that you purchase up to 24 months times that number.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
So we
And just
just
a reminder to the audience, as you call in, remember to lower the volume on your television set because that'll create a disturbance. Mention your name and your address and direct the question as it pertains only to the insurance. No other questions will be entertained. Joe?
Let me just follow up. I know we answered already one of Mrs. Hoyer, Karen Hoyer's question from 1015A Buckingham. That was basically the wind damage that we had. But also she mentions in there about earthquake coverage.
Yes, I saw that email. That's right. Let me recap. Her question was about that wind damage. And I'm not sure specifically what she wanted to know, except that it would be considered, it is certainly a covered cause of loss. It would be considered one occurrence. It happened from essentially the same storm. And the deductible would be applicable, as I described, proportionate to the her damage to her interior to the total loss.
Right.
I hope that does answer her question. She also mentioned that her agent told her that earthquake is an exclusion in her policy. And indeed, that is a standard exclusion in every all-risk policy. The association has $2 million worth of earthquake coverage. Again, it only provides coverage for the buildings, the structures, and so forth. It provides no coverage for their personal effects. One side note to earthquake coverage is that the damage caused directly by the earthquake would not be covered. But if that earthquake caused a fire or an explosion to occur, which is kind of common, that can happen, gas lines rupture and so forth, that damage would still be covered by our policy, not subject to the 2 million, and by her personal policy for whatever limits and coverage she has.
And then also we talked about the policy that residents have to have HO6 insurance, but I think someone mentioned about if you rent your unit, we also want to have HO4 insurance on record here that you have that. And I think one of the stipulations here is that it has to have at least $300,000 worth of liability coverage.
And that's basically to provide liability for anything that tenant may do, or, their pets or so forth. The other good thing about that, there's something, I don't want to go too far afield on this, but we have something called a waiver of subrogation built into our policy. Subrogation is simply the insurance company's right to go after a guilty party for causing damage. Now, they technically waive that right against unit owners. And the theory there is that the unit owner isn't insured and their negligence is a covered cause of loss under our policy with no repercussions. But they don't waive that against a tenant. So a tenant would need a reasonable limit of liability insurance to have there in the event that that they caused the damage. They left the candles burning too close to the drapes. their cat knocked over a candle. They left a pot unattended on a stove and burned the whole building down. They would have up to 300,000 if that's what you require for our insurance company to go back after them as the proximate cause of our loss. So great idea.
Yeah, I think
Very
we
good
hit the
example.
major parts of it, but then there was another thing that we're gonna pick your brain about, and that's basically about the cost of insurance. This year, like any other year, it goes up. Unfortunately, this year it's significant. It's pretty high. It's 6% on the base policy. Plus, we're having troubles. The directors and officers and the umbrellas and all that have gone up as well. So collectively, we're looking at a pretty substantial increase when it comes to insurance. Almost $90,000 for insurance this year.
7%.
7%, yeah.
I just did some quick math on that. So we had this conversation earlier, and I'll share it with the residents. I would love to be optimistic and tell you that there's great news on the horizon and rates are coming down, but the God's honest truth is I don't see that happening. Not in the very near future anyway. We live in very tumultuous times. There's a lot going on in the world, and none of it is great for insurance. There's political and social upheaval. There is changing weather patterns. And I mentioned this one earlier. The most current is the catastrophic winter they had in Texas, which is up to $20 billion in losses. And Texas, as large as it is a speck on the planet by comparison to the rest of the world. So you could have losses, catastrophic losses in Japan. You could have them in Australia, in Europe, anywhere around the globe, and they come back and affect us here. Now, the good news is we share in their good times too. Unfortunately, the way it connects us all is that our insurance companies buy insurance, and they buy that from a reinsurance company. And when those reinsurance companies get hit for these catastrophic worldwide events, their rates go up, and the companies that we buy our insurance from, their rates go up. So the weather is one thing. Political and social turmoil doesn't make property any safer, and it doesn't make liability claims any more moderate or less frequent. On the contrary, it really makes property somewhat more vulnerable. We had a series of riots over last summer. Liability suits kind of running rampant and getting a little out of control. These are not things that tend to make insurance costs go down. There's also the potential, because of all the stimulus that our government has pumped into the economy, that inflation might be a problem around the bend. Moderate inflation or severe inflation, no one knows. Who knows when it's going to come? But inflation is inflation, and what it does is it raises the price of everything. And not just the cost of the insurance, but the cost of the insurance companies to run their business and to rebuild the property that gets damaged, and the judgments that are rendered. So, the experts, the experts whose opinions I trust and I read are calling for, I don't know where I put that page, but they're calling for increases from 7.5% to 15% next year on some lines, up to 30% on other lines. And there's really not a whole lot we can do about it. We shop your account year in and year out. We touch base with all of our major carriers that will even entertain an account this size in this class of business. And as ugly as a 6/7% increase seems, you really are in excellent hands with an A+ rated insurance company, and I believe as competitively as it can possibly be written. There are times where significantly larger increases, 10 and 15%, might seem like a bargain by comparison. So I'm not really predicting that, but I'd say there's a greater chance of substantial increases versus the chance of premium decreases in the near future.
Right. So the board's got to weigh out the decision to sign a 2-year rate endorsement that will give us some comfort. It'll be still an increase, but it may not be as severe as what it could be down the road.
Well, yes, certainly you lock the company into offering you coverage, which is number one. companies do get out. Joe, I'm not sure how many board members go back long enough, but I can tell you that when we first wrote your account, we had a really nice run with Royal Globe. We had them with them for maybe 10 years, and then they kind of got out of the business. And then we had Travelers in St. Paul, and they ran for a while, and then they got out. And then Utica, and they were great. Utica was spectacular for many years, and now you've had a great run with Philadelphia, and I expect that to continue. But there's nothing obligating them. There is no obligation on their part to offer you a renewal quote next year. That endorsement obligates them to do it for at least one more year. Now, again, I don't say that to frighten anyone. They're happy with your account. They're not looking to run, but you never know. You just don't know. And these are kind of dicey times.
Right.
That's all I would say on that.
But it still allows us to shop it if we want to. We just have the 5%.
There's a 5% penalty if they offer you a renewal coverage under the parameters of that agreement. If they offer you coverage and you opt to take something different, there's a 5% penalty. Just keeping in mind, what you would be doing is sacrificing some savings, because you would have to realize enough savings to make it worth your while.
Right.
So it would be that much less savings that year.
Right. So that's most of the equation with the prices going up. There's one last bit, and that is the limits. The limits, were a little bit shy on the limits, and we need to purchase a few more. And I think they're 17,700 for every $10 million worth of limits.
Yeah, 17.7 cent rate is what it equates to. Yeah.
Right. So we really need to bring that up as well. And hopefully the board will agree to get at least 20 million, which will give us what you said, collectible is 25 million, somewhere around there.
Yeah, there's a 25% extended replacement cost endorsement. So
Right.
20 gets you 25.
So when you look at the total increase, unfortunately, it's bringing you up to about 126,000, which equates, most people will know, this equates to about a $4 increase for insurance alone. So we just want to make sure we're trying to hedge our best until we get to budget time, but this is a key piece of the budget when we put that together. I think we covered everything, right? I don't see any calls.
Any questions come in?
I don't see anybody on the line.
Very good. Mr. Mitchell, thank you very much for your time and the excellent service that you provided the association. And
You're welcome. Yeah.
We appreciate all that you've done, and hopefully we'll continue to do.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Would you like me to stick around, or should I depart?
Joe,
Any
I think
reason?
there may have been a crossing.
There may be something with the deductibles or something like that, maybe. I don't know. I think we covered most of that.
You did, yeah. Okay.
It's up to you, Tom.
No, I'll part ways if it's all right with you.
You're welcome.
If you have a reason for me to
Mitchell.
stay, I'd be happy to.
Thank you again.
Okay, have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Michael Palulak from McGovern Legal Services. Everybody's familiar with Mr. Palulak. He's been a guest here many, many times. Almost one of the residents, so to speak. Maybe in a few years.
A few more.
Okay, Joe, you present the subject matter, and then Mike will take over.
Amenities. You want to talk about amenities?
Talk
I
about
think that's the best thing that the most things that people are interested in is what are we doing with amenities?
Okay, I can start on it, and then Lou and the board, you could jump in to provide some more specifics as to what we're doing. But I can talk about where we sit in New Jersey currently with regard to the governor's executive orders. And I just feel it's important to point out that this is not the legislature passing laws telling us what we can and can't do with regard to opening amenities and setting capacity limits and whatnot. This was all done because the governor declared a state of emergency, usurped a bunch of powers that he did not initially have, which provides him authority to then create executive orders. So all of the capacity limits that we find in the state right now, and the mask requirements and everything else pertaining to COVID, stems from Governor Murphy's executive orders, and they can change at any time. Okay, so he can increase capacity limits, decrease them, whatever it may be. He can change the pool opening requirements. He could change anything at any time without any votes of assembly people or senators. So just keep that in mind. So as we talk about this, I could talk about the current capacity limits and the current restrictions that we have today, but who knows what tomorrow will bring. So with indoor gathering limits, contrary to what a lot of people believe, the association is stuck with a 25-person indoor limit, and outdoors, we are at a 200-person outdoor gathering limit. Governor Murphy recently increased capacity limits to, I believe it's 35%, but only for businesses that fit into a certain niche. So, retail businesses, places that sell food, restaurants, bars, etc. Their capacity limits changed. If a single family home or a community association clubhouse does not fall into one of those exceptions to the 25-person rule, we're stuck with the 25-person indoor capacity rule. And in there, in his executive orders, he says that if we're meeting indoors, face masks are required, social distancing is required, no touching of the same objects. Not much has changed from last summer. The amount of people that can meet has changed. If you recall, right before Thanksgiving, he reduced the capacity limits to 10 people inside. Again, this was for Thanksgiving and all the holiday season. And in March, he increased it up to 25 people. Subsequent to that, he made some changes to outdoor limits and businesses, but indoors for us, we're still stuck at 25 people. And I know people don't like to hear that. It's frustrating, but that's where we stand today. And again, the association here cannot fall back on insurance in case something goes wrong and we have to deal with a lawsuit that's related to COVID. So the board, acting on your behalf, has to be pretty conservative with the decisions we're making. So indoor capacity, 25 people. Outdoor amenities, we could start with the pool. So the pool requirements, if you recall back in June of last year, Governor Murphy, he got on TV, he said, hey, we're going to open the pools up this summer. And then what ended up happening was he defers it over to the Department of Health, who created guidelines. And they're fairly burdensome. They came out with 6 pages of guidelines, and that applied all last year. Last month, they came out with their updated guidelines, and it's the same as last year's guidelines. Nothing's really changed. So as we sit here today, the pool restrictions are, generally speaking, we're limited to 50% capacity in the pool area. So that's the entire area that's enclosed by the pool. Communities need to have a social distancing or a pool ambassador whose job is to sign people in, make sure people aren't gathering in clusters or groups, has to mandate masks and social distancing. And again, that gets a little tough where people live together. They're not required to social distance. So regardless, you can't have groups of people close together. Commonly touched surfaces must be continually wiped down between touching. Many communities are not permitting, they're not permitting any chairs or any furniture at the pool that's supplied by the community. Instead, it's saying, BYO chair, right? So bring your own chairs to the pool. In this way, the association doesn't have to wipe it down. As you can imagine, it's got to be a fairly burdensome job to constantly wipe down the chairs or the lounge chairs or the tables or whatever. And the bathrooms must be continually cleaned throughout the day. So whatever bathrooms are made available, they have to be wiped down and sanitized. Separate entrances into the pool area and entrances and egresses. It's a lot, to be honest with you. It's a lot. It hasn't changed from last year. But that being said, as more and more people in New Jersey become vaccinated, as the virus becomes more and more pervasive in our society, and therefore making it more difficult to show where you have gotten the virus from, more and more communities are trending towards opening up this summer. We represent a lot of communities, and I speak to a lot of boards and memberships about this issue. And it seems as though the vast majority do intend to open their pools, albeit it's going to look different than it did several years ago when it was normal. Most communities are not permitting guests, and the reasoning is, if you could imagine, we're limited in capacity, right? So if you live in the community and you go to the pool and you're told to wait outside the pool, you can't come in because there's too many people in there, and you look in and it's just a bunch of people that don't live there, a bunch of guests, you can see how that could create a big problem. And it's also a liability issue. So as you may recall, the community here is really fortunate. Several years back, we had passed a tort immunity amendment to your bylaws, which provides a certain amount of legal protection to the association. And it's fantastic that that has happened. But it only applies to the owners in the community, the owners and their spouses. It does not apply to guests. So it doesn't apply to tenants or others that are not owners. But guests could potentially be a large group of people, and therefore are oftentimes, or at least as we sit here today talking with other boards, most boards are not going to be allowing guests into the pool this year. So aside from tort immunity, what we've been talking about with the board here and every single community in the state that I've been talking to this about, it plans on requiring owners to sign a release or a waiver agreement stating that you're going to waive your right to sue the association for COVID-19 related claims or sicknesses. So we're trying to, you don't have insurance for this, so we're trying to add as much legal protection as we can to make this opening as possible as we can, and as safe, and to reduce the liability as much as possible. So that's the pool. Other amenities that you have outdoors are permitted to be opened, but right, it's the same as last year. So things like pickleball, tennis courts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What the governor has said is that we're not permitted or strongly discouraged from providing any of the rackets or balls to be used. Instead, people would have to bring their own. Commonly touched surfaces must be sanitized. Ideally, you have an ambassador or somebody observing to make sure that people aren't gathering in groups. Again, the board has an obligation here to make sure that we're doing everything possible to attain the state standards. So having somebody on behalf of the association there, making sure that we are following the rules would really be a prudent thing to do. Face masks required as long as you're not playing. If you're playing, you're all set. And so on and so forth, right? You need the hand sanitizing stations, so on and so forth. So they're permitted to be open, but the residents really need to follow the rules and follow the guidelines from the state. And we've been talking to the board. I don't know if Lou or somebody from the board wants to jump in and talk about what we anticipate doing this summer. But that's kind of where we stand today. Things are allowed to be opened up outdoors, but we must be following the restrictions set forth by Governor Murphy.
Right. So we were talking about, like, similar to last year as we started, we're talking about the golf course. We're talking about the tennis. We're talking about the farm. And now you give us a little bit extra leeway to talk about the pickleball. So we want to start those things. Of course, we have to wait for the pool till the pool season, but we're interested in opening the pools exactly as you said, with residents only, no chairs, nothing like that. No children hours, just residents ourselves. With the waiver, making sure that everybody signed the waiver. Even asking if you've been vaccinated. So we'll keep a record of that, just to log it, that say that you've been vaccinated. However, we're going to need a little bit more time than we initially thought to open up some of those items like the tennis and all that. With this new information that we're talking about, we got to put a couple more things in play to make sure that we're ready. Number one, it's difficult getting help. We need to find these rangers and ambassadors and everything that we need to do that. So we're probably looking to bring these things on a little bit at a time, starting around May 1st with the golf course, with the tennis, pickleball. But at least this gives us good hope that something is going to be opened up this year. I don't know if you got anything extra.
just like last year, there will be guidelines. Information will be through a one-call system as well as on Creeper. There may be some additional questions that the association will come up with that we may not have mentioned this evening. Those will be forthcoming.
Yep.
And the one point I want to stress is that if there is any violations of the protocols that have been set out by this association, that amenity will be shut down. We are hoping that everybody will heed to the protocols that are going to be distributed, communicated. Uh, you need to provide the information, who you are, possible contact tracing, and if anything were to occur. So again, it's for everybody's protection and to establish some kind of a way in which we can schedule the different activities throughout the day, throughout the week, so that it's organized.
Yeah, that's good. Another question?
Mr. Murphy?
Yeah, I just wanted to also indicate that, we'll be setting up these guidelines and, there may be certain time periods when these events will be allowed to take place.
Correct. We're probably gonna have, those of you who did golf before with us and with tennis, you would call in, we'll pick a scheduled time with you. We'll mark it on there, what date and time that you are anticipated to be there, so that we don't have overlapping of other residents involved with it. You'll have adequate time to play. I need to change the subject a little bit, unless we're not done with this.
Interface, yes.
We're good?
Unless any other board members have any questions or management, Jim, Michelle? No? Okay.
Just want to go over something that happened since we did the last rejection ballot. If you remember correctly, we sent out a rejection ballot. The board actually voted to reduce the quorum down to 1/3. And with that, we sent out the ballots to everyone. We didn't do it the way that we do normally do an election, where you have a inner and outer envelope. So there was no way for you to register that you would send back to us, and your name would be on the outer envelope, so that we could verify that you were in good standing, you were a resident here. We didn't do that. We didn't put envelopes in the package. What we did was put a signature line on the ballot. And what we're hearing is the DCA is not in line with those thoughts. They would prefer to be totally anonymous. Now, I know a resident has challenged us with this, so we're going to contact the DCA to clarify this, because when you think about it, with a rejection ballot, there's no way to really be anonymous. There is no anonymity with a rejection ballot, because if you send it in, even if we had a double envelope system, you would sign off on that. We know how you voted, because it's only no votes that come in. But we want to clarify it with the DCA, because they have the oversight on this, and we'll get this cleared up relatively shortly. The second part of that, the question that came in, was that we had, the board made the motion to amend the bylaws. They amended it. They sent out the ballots. We gave a date when we were going to have a meeting to give the results of that. We were challenged that should have been a membership meeting, whereas Mike has confirmed that is not a membership meeting. That is the board meeting where they're just giving the results of the amount of ballots that came back. So that part we were good on. This other one we want to clear up with the DCA, because there's no way to be anonymous on this one, but we'll see. We'll get in touch with them. I just wanted to touch base on that before we started bringing in some questions. Anything else
Thank you.
before I bring people in?
Okay, let's go to the audience if there's any. And remember, please announce your name and limit your question to this particular topic.
And again, it was pointed out, turn your TV down, because we won't be able to talk to you. All right, first caller is in. Hello?
First caller is in. Hello?
Hello,
Yes.
Yes.
can you hear me? Chuck
Can hear you.
Corvo, Liverpool Circle. Question concerning the vaccine. Is it allowed to limit the guests to, say, the pool area to just those that have received the vaccine? And that's my only question. I'll hang up and let you answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent question, by the way. So the answer appears to be yes, that would be permissible. There's actually no guidance from the governor on this or anything to do with housing or pools or amenities. In fact, we're taking guidance from the EEOC, that's the Commission Overseeing Workplace related issues. And in there, they specify that employers are permitted to require employees to get vaccinated prior to entering back into the workforce or entering back into their building. So we're using that same logic because kind of in the industry, the attorneys have been discussing this, and the general consensus is that would be what we would use as the guidelines. So in doing so, they say it's permissible, but exceptions need to be made for those with certain religious issues that for whatever religion doesn't permit them to get the vaccine. And also an exception for somebody who indicates that their doctor has told them due to some underlying condition or pre-existing condition that they wouldn't or should not take the vaccine at this time. So exceptions would need to be made. We would need to make accommodations for those individuals. I've been talking to quite a few boards about doing this. A handful appear as though they intend to proceed in that direction. Perhaps not at the beginning of the season. The vaccine must be made readily available to whomever is going to access the pool before we can require that you must be vaccinated. Certainly with age-restricted communities, you're in a different situation than non-age restricted communities. But we'll see how it plays out. But I think the answer to your question is most likely yes.
Okay. Hello, caller, you're on.
Hello?
Yes, you're on.
Hello. Hi, this is Pat Hansen from 11B Buckingham. It's my understanding that Governor Murphy has opened up golf without any rangers required and no restrictions required. Is it possible that the board would consider not having rangers on the golf course?
I could jump into that. So
Yes, please do.
we are kind of stuck with his executive orders, right? His executive order pertaining to golf is the same from last year. He hasn't come out at any point this year with a new revised golfing executive order. So what we would be required to do at this point is to adhere to having rangers and staggering times and so on and so forth.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next. Hello?
Hello?
Hello? Go ahead. You're on.
Hello?
You're on.
Yeah.
Yes, Marie Lamberti, Farrington Court. Michael, I would just like to inform you that upon receiving the ballot to reject amendment, which stated to reject you must sign name and address on same ballot, I immediately called community manager Mr. Schultz to say that this ballot is against the DCA voting rules. I also informed board president Mr. Mayoka. I find the election invalid since I did not hear from either one regarding the issue other than just hearing it now from Mr. Schultz, what he had to say. I contacted State Senator's office, who forwarded my question to the DCA legislative aide. Now, I also sent all copies of my communications, my personal communications. I sent all copies to Mr. Schultz and Mr. Mayoka, which I did not have to do, but I did that as courtesy to my village. Now, the clarification from the DCA that I received I hear. It reads as follows. In accordance with the language of the regulations, all voting ballots must be secret/confidential. It may not appear as crucial with the general bylaw vote, but that is not always the case. It is critical to preserve anonymity when owners vote to object to a board proposal, which is a rejection ballot. Now, this was from the legislative aid from the DCA. You're not going to get any other information than that, but may I ask you what you have to say regarding it?
Sure. So, yeah, we spoke about this. In fact, we were reading the information that you provided to, I think it was Joe, and somewhere in there they indicate, the DCA representative indicates that it is the preferred method to have these ballots anonymous. So we were seeking clarification on that from the DCA. At least as I discussed with the board, I'm happy to talk to you about it. Certainly with elections, I understand why anonymity would be required by the DCA. When it comes to regular bylaw amendments, okay, sure, people care how they vote, yes or no, right? I guess maybe the board would be interested in that. With a rejection ballot, like Joe was saying, the issue is if the ballot comes in, you know how the person voted. It's only to reject. So by virtue of receiving an envelope with the person's name on it, the board or manager or whomever is going to see which individuals returned the ballot because it's only a rejection ballot. So the anonymous nature of that seems to be kind of silly, to be honest with you. So we were going to see if we could get some clarification from them.
Well, on that premise, the ruling is not where you can make your own judgment. The ruling is as it is. And as far as who would know what votes come in or what not come in, I mean, I worked on that committee years back for 14 years. We knew every voter who they voted for. So there's really no difference. And if the rejection ballot is so questionable, I even mentioned to our community manager, don't do the rejection voting. This board 2 years ago chose to do that. Radburn did not say you must do that, which is what that previous board stated. Radburn said you may do that, or you may follow your bylaws. The previous board chose not to follow the bylaws. That was their choice. Now they're in the dilemma of how to settle it. I appreciate a call from maybe you, since I didn't get an answer from regarding the issue that would be taken up with you tonight from either board president or Mr. Schultz, and I got it from the DCA legislative aid. So I don't want their interpretations. I would like a call from you or drop me a note, but I don't want someone's interpretation. I want the fact, the true fact.
We are not giving you an interpretation. By the way, I left early yesterday to get my first shot. That's why I didn't call you in. We've been in meetings all day long. So I apologize for not getting back to you immediately, but we did talk on the subject. We shared many thoughts on it. We talked for an hour, I think, on the subject. So
Yep.
We're not going to give you our opinion. I'm going to talk to the DCA and get,
Right.
that's what I'm promising you. We're going to do that.
Well, they have rulings. The word that was put out there is not ruling. Rules are rules to follow. They can't be interpretations. And Mr. Polak especially knows that.
Like Mike pointed out, he said it's the preferred method. We want to see what he thinks about it. Maybe they didn't think it through, that it's not anonymous. There's no way to be anonymous. But let's wait until I talk to them.
Right, and then they should do away with the rejection balloting is what they should do.
Well, I don't
And you
agree with that, but.
did not have to do that here at all. It was a choice of the board.
Understood.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. All right, we have more. Hello, caller, you're on. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, you're on.
Okay. My name is Tim, 25B Gramercy. Just interested in the pickleball. Just wondering, I see in all the municipalities surrounding us, there are absolutely no restrictions on who can play or how many people are there, and it's all outdoors. I'm wondering why we're restricted here.
Yeah, good question. So it's tough to compare community associations to townships because, quite frankly, if the township gets sued, it's in the budget, right? They either have an attorney on staff, or if their money's not there, they can just raise your taxes. Community associations are different. So this is the first time that anybody can think of where a board is acting and making decisions without having an insurance policy to fall back on if a lawsuit were ever filed, which is why virtually every community in the state is taking a pretty conservative approach with regard to opening the amenities. It's a pretty scary thing to do if we're putting our neck on the line potentially if something goes wrong. So you're right. Many communities, or excuse me, many townships have just opened amenities up, and there's nobody making sure that the residents are adhering to the governor's orders. I would suggest to you, community associations are in a different situation. We must make every reasonable action to make sure that the residents and people using the amenities are adhering to the governor's orders. So that, I think, is kind of what the answer is.
Okay, you did mention a waiver option. Would that be available?
Absolutely. So prior to using any amenity, we're strongly suggesting that the boards require everybody to sign waivers, waiving your right to sue for COVID-related issues. However, if you speak to a plaintiff's lawyer, they will oftentimes tell you that more often than not, courts do not always uphold the waivers. So it's protection. It's helpful to have. So is tort immunity, which is an amendment that the association had incorporated into the bylaws. That's great. That's huge. That's great. We have that. A release agreement would be plan B to fall back on. And, we still need to make sure, though, that we are adhering to the standards. So we would have to do this. That's kind of the answer. At least I would suggest to the boards.
Right, I understand.
Yeah.
Similar to the pool, would it be allowed to require those who are vaccinated?
Yeah, so I think we can require those who are require access to any amenity to only those that are vaccinated. Like we kind of discussed earlier, you can require it, but it's really difficult to enforce. Aside from the exceptions, there's a marketplace online. We were discussing earlier, there's a marketplace online for buying fake vaccination cards. That exists. It's been an issue in Europe, in China, and in India. It's a problem. So, we can require it, but enforcing it is challenging. Another approach might be to strongly suggest to only use it if you've been fully vaccinated.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey, Mike.
Yep.
Murphy?
I just wanted you to reiterate to the residents that even though if we're at some point opening up these amenities, the liability is still going to be the responsibility of everyone in the village.
Yeah, good point, Gene. So that's exactly correct. Again, usually what happens is when a lawsuit is filed, a slip and fall, whatever lawsuit is filed against an association, we call up the insurance broker, notify the carrier, they defend it, and they settle eventually. You don't have that option here. So we'll call up the broker. They're going to deny coverage, the underwriter. It'll get dished out to our office. We would file an answer. We would defend the lawsuit, deal with the litigation, which would all be out of pocket to the community. And if there is a settlement, that would be something that the association members would need to endure, which typically would be paid for with a special assessment to each of the owners individually. So it's not pretty. We really would like to avoid that at all costs. So that's why we're suggesting so strongly to be conservative. We do want to open everything up eventually, right? But we need to do it in a way that's complying with what the governor is saying we must do.
Another one. Hello, caller, you're on. Is there an easier way to do this? Hello?
Hello, how are you?
All right, how are you? You're on.
No, it's Norm. Hey, it's Norm, 30D Yorkshire Court. I'm just curious. I heard everything outside, but I didn't hear the gym. Is the gym going to be open? If everything else is open outside?
And we're only talking about outdoor amenities currently.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, I'm
Okay.
saying I don't think we don't have plans yet to open up the gym.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
All right. All right. Next one. Hello, caller, you're on.
Hello. Thank you, honey.
Hello?
Yes, you're on.
Hello?
Yes, hello, you're on.
This is Annette Bompani from 517 Cheshire Court.
Yep.
I hear no mention of bocce. I heard there was a reservation because you were fearful that you were holding the balls. Well, we wear gloves and we sanitize the gloves. We could sanitize the ball. Why can't bocce be opened?
Well, at present, the board's not comfortable with that decision yet. Maybe we'll talk about that later on, but right now it's not one of the amenities we're looking at right now.
Can you give me a reason why?
Because it is a little bit more cumbersome to manage. You know, how would you run it? You would talk about teams and stuff like that. It's not usually like a couples type of sport that I know of.
Well, you could go just two. You could have less. You would have more teams, different days, and you could bring your own chair. You don't have to use the benches to sit down, and you would go up and play. You'd wear the gloves and clean the ball before and after you use it. I think all the players would consider that because we miss it greatly. We had a bad year last year, and now we're facing another one. And you have a lot of depressed residents here because of the limitations.
Yeah, the board understands that in light of the number of individuals involved in the game and involving the multiple courts there and the way the location is set, the board needs to consider other factors before making a decision that it can be open. So give us time to ponder through that. And as things change, we will let everybody know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, hello, caller, you are on.
Hi, this is Karen Hooyer, 1015A, Buckingham. I was just wondering if the attorney can tell us, has there been any lawsuits?
Yeah, great
that he
questions.
knows of?
Yeah, so none of the communities that we represent, but what I did is I spoke to the big insurance brokers in the state that represent altogether thousands of associations, as well as the biggest underwriter, CAU, of community associations in the state, to ask them that same question. And I came back and totaled them. There were approximately 3 to 4, I think it was 4, lawsuits filed against community associations pertaining to COVID-19. I do not know anything about them. I don't know the underlying merits. If it was a group of people that got sick, I don't know if people were suing the board for not opening amenities. And I don't know the disposition of them. They didn't give me any information other than those that were filed. So a handful were, which is honestly pretty encouraging. As I think we move on with life into the new COVID world, and as things open up, hopefully this summer, I think it's going to be more challenging for somebody to sue an association successfully, claiming that they got COVID at the fill in the blank amenity, right? And I think that's a really positive thing. I think that trends in the association world for communities opening up more and more as we get further into getting vaccinated, further into the summer, which is all positive. So to answer your question, a handful of lawsuits that I'm aware of were filed in New Jersey against associations.
And they had some bills pending that they were supposed to vote on. Were they ever voted on, or are they just still sitting there?
Yes. So last year, in July, there were 7 bills in New Jersey. And what we're talking about are bills proposed to provide immunity for homeowner and condo associations so that we can open our amenities, we can open our pools and kind of move on with our lives. Those 7 bills did not move at all. So they were introduced into the Assembly or the Senate and they died. In November, another bill was introduced. This one was specifically for condo and homeowner associations to provide blanket immunity. It also died. Nothing happened. 3 weeks ago, another bill was introduced, exactly the same as the one in November. We don't know what's going to happen with it. Nothing's happened yet as of today. I could tell you, though, Governor Murphy, at least towards the end of last year, in November, December, had indicated that he did not intend to sign one of these bills. He said it was kind of counterintuitive to what he was doing. If we removed liability from a bad actor, it would maybe lead some communities towards not following his guidelines. But that was then, this is now. So who knows where that will go. But yeah, there's one that's, everyone's got their fingers crossed, but there's been very little indication that it's going to move ahead.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Hello, caller, you were on.
Hello, caller, you were on. Hello, caller, you were on.
Hello?
Hello.
Marie Lamberti, Farrington Court. I just want to clarify one statement in the bit that I had to say regarding knowing who votes in an election. The fact being, we would know who voted, but with the double envelope system, we never knew the person's vote. So I want to make that clear. We always know who voted. Their signature was separate from the closed envelope with their vote. Thank you, and thank you all for your patience. Good night.
Right, thank you. And by the way, that kind of bolsters our point that with the rejection ballot, there's only one way to vote. It's only to vote no. So if somebody sends in an envelope, you know how they vote.
There's no yes or no. That's it. You voted.
Right. So it's possible in the DCA regulations where they said when a bylaw amendment is proposed to the membership, they were referring to only bylaw amendments where we said vote yes or no, and those only need to be anonymous. And that's why we're seeking the clarification from them.
Right. Actually, they should do away with the rejection voting. Michael, it can never be anonymous with the way it's going. It just can't be. How could they call it anonymity?
Agreed.
That's our point. We agree.
Okay, I'll leave that for you to settle, Michael. Okay, thank you all. Good night.
Good night.
Okay, caller, you're on.
Yes, since Governor Murphy has increased the outdoor limit to 200 people, is it possible to actually have a club meeting in a parking lot?
Yeah, I could jump in. So is it possible? Sure. So the question is, does the board want to allow something like that? Is it a smart thing in the community? Is a different question, I think, for the board to discuss. But yes, so it would be permitted. Social distancing is required, face masks required, but up to, again, 200 people can gather, whatever that means.
Okay, so board, would you open up a parking lot so we can have a golf meeting?
Would that mean, Mike, would that mean an ambassador or anything like that, do you think?
Joe, so the problem for us and communities in general is that we really have to make sure people comply, right?
Yeah.
We need to comply with the executive orders. Again, goes back to the lack of insurance and all that. So how do we make sure people comply? That's a good question. You either have an ambassador there, or we tell people you must comply or you can't do it again. It's a good question, Joe, and there is no clear answer to it.
I think you see the frustration in trying to organize a outdoor meeting on grounds that is really not suited for that, like it would be for an outdoor arena, a stadium, a ballpark field where you have a closed entrance and you have a gate where you can pass in and pass out. Here, it's all open territory, so the association would have to figure out some kind of logical way that an ambassador can control the audience and make sure that everybody is complying with the mask and maintaining social distance. And they are residents of the village, so that has to be confirmed.
Okay,
It's a
so
complicated point, yeah.
okay, but
we were
could the board for the club serve as the ambassadors?
No. The board would not be able.
Why?
I think
Why
you're
not?
a little ahead of us right now. We have those irregular amenities that we have to talk about yet. Perhaps down the road, we can talk about more things like clubs.
Okay, thank you guys. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's the last caller, so we're ready to move on, I think.
Good. Thank you. Thank you.
We have a whole other meeting to go through.
We have a
Okay.
whole, yes. All right,
Joe,
we
and Lou,
are
do you-
now going to go to
Hold on a second.
the items to be voted on.
Hold on a second.
Wait.
Mr. Mike wants to ask a question.
I just wanted to ask you, did you want me here for the meeting? I'm happy to
Yes,
stay.
I think there's one item that may be coming up
Sure.
on the motion.
Okay.
Joe, right? Number
Which
5.
one? Number 5?
Pool.
Okay, let's the pools.
The,
Sure.
yeah.
Sure.
All right. Number 1 and number 2, Ms. Carmody, would you be kind to take care of those?
Sure. My first motion I'd like to make is to waive the reading of the minutes of the March meeting.
Second,
Mr. Hardman,
Yes.
Ms. Weinstein,
Yes.
Mr. Murphy,
yes.
Ms. Carmody,
Yes.
Mr. D'Amato,
Yes.
Mr. Simon,
Yes.
Mr. Mayoko.
Yes.
Okay, my next motion would be to approve the March 3rd, 2021 minutes.
Second.
Mr. Simon,
Yes.
Mr. Hardman,
Yes.
Ms. Weinstein,
Yes.
Mr. Murphy,
Yes.
Ms. Carmody,
Yes.
Mr. D'Amato,
Yes.
Mr. Mayoko.
Yes. Great. Motion number 3, Mr. Hardman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Motion to approve the siding painting in condos 92, which consists of 28 units for a total cost of $25,641.84. The funds to meet this expense will be provided by account 3000, deferred maintenance siding painting. The unaudited balance for this account as of 2/28/21 is $15,889.68.
Second,
Mr. D'Amato,
Yes.
Mr. Simon,
Yes.
Mr. Murphy,
yes.
Mr. Hardman,
Yes.
Ms. Weinstein,
Yes.
Ms. Carmody,
Yes.
Mr. Mayoko.
Yes. Thank you. Motion number 4, Mr. Steinman, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Make a motion to approve the purchase of a 40-foot by 30-foot shade structure at the Encore Pool from US Shade at a cost of $10,696.94, with an additional permit fee from Manchester Township at a cost of $800. The total expense is $11,496.94. The funds to meet this expense will be provided by account 3230, Capital Replacements, Common Buildings. The unaudited, no, not yet. The unaudited balance for this account as of February 28th, 2021 is $1,063,517.92.
Second,
Ms. Carmody,
Yes.
Mr. D'Amato,
Yes.
Mr. Simon,
Yes.
Mr. Hardman,
Yes.
Ms. Weinstein,
Yes.
Mr. Murphy,
yes.
Mr. Mayoko.
Yes. Thank you. Next motion, number 5, would be Mr. D'Amato.
Thank you, Mr. President. I make a motion to contract the pool services with Carmoda Pool Services for the 2021 regular season, along with the unattended option at the end of the season for a cost of $73,067. The discrepancy in our agenda is because of the addition of the
Ambassadors.
yes, the pool ambassador. Thank you. I lost the term.
Pool
The funds for to meet this expense will be provided by account number 8570 swimming pool repair and maintenance.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay.
Mr. Murphy?
I'm
Mr.
sorry, did you say me?
Yes.
I'm sorry, yes.
Ms. Carmody?
Yes.
Mr. D'Amato?
Yes.
Mr. Simon?
Yes.
Mr. Hardman?
Yes.
Ms. Weinstein?
Yes.
Mr. Myoko?
Yes. Motion number 6, we have Ms. Carmody. How about read the motion? Take care of it.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. I make a motion to approve the community manager's contract.
Second,
Ms. Weinstein?
No.
Mr. Murphy?
yes.
Ms. Carmody?
Yes.
Mr. D'Amato?
No.
Mr. Simon?
Yes.
Mr. Hardman?
Yes.
Mr. Myoko?
No. Thank you.
Passed.
Motion passes.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
Thank you, everybody. Mr. Schultz, before we go to the committee reports, the reason for requesting Mr. Fulak is if you wanted to have him stand by and talk about the Willow bathrooms.
Oh, okay. All right. That's a whole presentation. Jim, you ready with that presentation?
So
I'm ready if you let me share.
Yeah.
ladies
Oh,
and
yeah, I
gentlemen,
gotta turn it on.
what we're going to do now, because of our attorney being present, one item under new business is the Willow bathrooms. So we wanted to address that and slightly out of order, and then we'll go back to the presentation of the committee report. So I do apologize for skipping around, but we didn't want to detain Mr. Fulak further. Okay. Mr. Snyder, it's yours.
There you go. Bear with me. I was caught off guard there for a second.
Keep everybody alert.
I know. Keep us on our toes.
Keep on toes.
Okay. So we've been talking for quite a while now about adding additional bathrooms to Willow Hall. Two purpose. One would be to get some out at the pool. The second one is with the new swipe system, it's difficult for guests that are at the pool to utilize the bathroom. So here's my presentation. Willow Pool bathrooms may be coming this summer. We had originally talked with the board about adding an additional bathroom in Willow Hall at the Kiln Room, if everybody remembers that. But what that would have done is relocated the ceramics room to Encore and a whole chain of events that had to happen. So we did some revisiting of the area. And if you notice the pool, if hopefully everybody could see my arrow, this building right here used to be the hot wire head end. It was where they kept all their equipment. So I went to the township and asked them if we can repurpose this existing building and turn it into 2 ADA unisex bathrooms at the pool. So I went to the township and I applied for a zoning permit. And on March 19th, we were approved from zoning of Manchester Township to repurpose this building and turn them into 2 bathrooms. This gives you a little better picture of the building on the left. It's right here. That used to be the head end building. So what we're proposing is relocate this center storage shed, which just has some pool equipment in it. We keep the noodles in there at night, the cover during the summer months. So we'll relocate that back and gain entry to the area here and install a bathroom. This is what the inside of the building looks like. It's really good shape. It's minimal construction is needed. We need to gut this though, take all that equipment down and build some walls to create 2 ADA bathrooms. This is what it would look like. Again, we'd come in from the side where that shed is removed, come inside, handicap accessible to 2 ADA bathrooms. Obviously, the plumbing fixtures, faucets, sinks, a little water heaters for the sinks, some bath fans. So here's our costs. Now, initially inside, it was about $12,000 for the plumber to do it. It's a little more expensive here because in order to access the sewer line, we have to trench behind the greenhouse and tap into the far end of the greenhouse sewer line. So here's the cost associated with it: plumbing contractor, electrical contractor, flooring, walls, lighting, doors, a ramp, some permits and zoning. Now this came in a little bit less, so it looked like we're going to save a little bit of money here. Some miscellaneous work as some fencing and some landscaping we need to do. And then we need to cool the building with 2 small little AC units for a cost of $28,714. The original cost, sorry, I went the wrong way. The original cost for building it inside where the kiln room was about $25,000, so not too bad. So here's my memo to the board. It was written the end of last month. The topic of additional bathrooms at Willow Hall, especially something closer to the pool area, has been discussed for many years. With the addition of a card swipe system, this need has increased and now needed bathroom access for non-residents while at the pool. As I mentioned earlier, and this goes over everything that I mentioned before, we went to the zoning permit. So now all that is left is to go to Manchester Township for our building and plumbing permits. So if the board wishes to move forward with the installation of 2 ADA bathrooms at Willow Hall, it would be our recommendation to fund this project for a cost of $29,000. At this time, the general ledger account for this project to be charged is yet to be determined. So that's where, Mr. Palulak, you would come in, I believe.
Yeah, sure. So I had reviewed the association's governing documents to find out whether this would be permissible, and if so, how do we do it? Do we have to get the membership to approve? Do we have to amend governing documents? Do we need an 80% vote, a 50% vote from the members, or can the board simply vote to approve this? The way your governing documents are written, it requires that the membership authorize the board to do certain things. One of which is, the big one here, is acquire additional recreational facilities. The language in which that is written strongly suggests that pertains to buying land and building another clubhouse. Talks about contiguous land next to the association's property. That's not what this is talking about. This is just modifying an existing structure to put in a bathroom. And the short answer is yes, the board has authority to proceed with the project without going to the membership. So we don't need a bylaw amendment. You don't need a membership vote by the board, by the members to approve this. Rather, the governing documents, which kind of set forth what the board can and can't do and what the members need to approve, provides authority for the board under these circumstances to go ahead with this project.
So to the board, I will, this will act as our first reading. So if the board wants to discuss this further, and it'll come up at our next board meeting for a vote.
Which we're talking about doing another meeting this month, right?
Yes.
Yes, there was a discussion because of the number of items that require another additional reading. Having subsequent board meetings a month away just delays the process, and what the board would like to do is announce before the next meeting, at least 7 days in advance, that we are planning to schedule an open board meeting 2 weeks from today to have a regular session. So it would probably be a 1 p.m. meeting, just like we always do on Wednesdays, except for, I think, twice a year or 3 times a year, we have evening meetings. So this was the exception. So we're planning on having a open board meeting 2 weeks from today at 1 p.m. Same way Zoom. Announcements will be forthcoming. And we will have a second meeting. Does the board want to discuss this topic at all this evening? About the pool? Okay, yes, Mr. Murphy.
Yeah, I think first I'd like to thank Jim and his staff for coming up with that proposal. I think it really, I know the residents over the years have been asking about a pool closer to a bathroom closer to the pools. And I think this will fit the bill. And also with the swipe card access, we don't have to be too concerned now with that of putting a bathroom in there into Willow. So I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, yeah, I agree also. I think it's pretty ingenious to come up with a plan where we have an existing structure and all we need to do is modify it. And it's just about adjacent to the pool, so people don't have to, get out of the pool area and walk some 70 feet to Willow Hall to go to use the facilities. And it also takes care of the issue with, entry and exit as well. Thank you. Do we have anything else for Mr. Palulak? Mr. Schultz?
Let's see, what else do we have? No, you don't have any questions on the confidentiality agreement yet to come? Do you have any questions on that for Mike?
Nope, we don't.
No,
The board?
No.
I don't know.
I think that's it. Then I don't see anything else.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for joining us tonight and helping to shed the light on some of the ambiguities regarding what do we do with these crazy amenities. And thank you again. Thank you again.
All right, everybody. Thanks for having me. Have a great night.
Thanks,
You
Mike.
too.
Take care.
Take care.
Okay, we will get back on track with presentation of the committee reports. So can
Oh, yes.
you bring them out of the waiting room?
They're coming.
Pick them up.
Yes.
Okay.
No one near.
Okay, I think we have them, right? That's what we're expecting. Okay, welcome. Sorry to keep you waiting. We have quite a laundry list of items. Uh-oh.
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 Not me,
Who did that?
not me, not me.
All right, the first report will be from Mr. Traeger for the Architectural Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, everyone. This is a meeting of the Architectural Committee on March 5th. As far as permits were concerned, we issued 38 and we completed 21. On old business, the board asked the committee to look into allowing whole house generators. The committee had a lengthy discussion on natural gas and electric power cells system. It was the consensus of the committee not to allow them, which a report was sent to the board. We also had, as far as old business, a committee member brought an idea to the committee to allow pavers in the 5-foot area for the greenery section only. Proposal was drafted and forwarded to the trustee liaison for the board's feedback. On new business, a resident at 440 B Dartmoor requested a patio awning, which is on a lot of the models in that area. There is no specification for it, which we spoke about. We had a long discussion, and we turned it down due to the way it would be mounted is not permitted, because it would have to be mounted to the roof, which we cannot do. The committee's next meeting will be a Zoom meeting on May 7th, 2021. Respectfully submitted, Traeger, Chairperson of the Architectural Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Traeger. Any questions, board?
No.
Okay, thank you again. We next would have been Community Services Committee, but since they did not meet, there is no report for this evening, so Eleanor Baradas was excused. Next committee presentation is from Mary Lou Donor, Finance Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Finance Committee met on March 23rd, 2021 via Zoom at 1:01 p.m. The committee reviewed the financials for the period ending February 28th, 2021, including any changes plus or minus $5,000. The committee also reviewed the Encore wood trim project and the solar reports. Also, the committee was informed that the board has indicated that any person who sits on a committee must be a resident owner or a co-owner of Leisure Village West units. All of the Finance Committee members meet that requirement. The balance of the committee's meeting was spent discussing the proposed funding requirements for the 13 reserve accounts for the upcoming fiscal year. Recommendations will be presented to the board at its April 28th, 2021 budget workshop. Chairperson Donor, or Mr. Corvo in her absence, Mr. Klotz, and Ms. San Clemente will attend. The committee's next meeting is set for Tuesday, April 27, 2021 at 1 p.m. via Zoom. Respectfully for the submitted, Mary Louise Donor, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Donor. Questions? Okay. Next, we will go to the Administration Committee, Ms. Judy Langridge. Welcome, Ms. Langridge.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Administration Committee met on Monday, March 15th at 1 o'clock via Zoom. The committee interviewed 3 potential people as candidates to fill the one remaining position on our committee. We met with them as we did our own committee via Zoom. A vote was taken with the candidate's name and with the candidate's name, was sent to the board for the BOT's approval. A report was given by our liaison, Joy Carmody, regarding things that they reported from the board to us. We discussed opening some of the amenities, golf, tennis, and the farm, which you guys covered tonight nicely. I thank you. We will not be having an April meeting this time due to conflicts with some of my things. Our next meeting will be, I can't believe I'm saying that, May 10th at 1 o'clock via Zoom. And I thank you so much. Any questions?
No. The liaison for the Administration Committee. You have a comment regarding the new
Yes.
member?
Recently at our pre-meeting, at our workshop meeting, Mrs. Langridge, we've decided that the person that you voted for, which you would like to announce, I'm sure yourself, would be most amenable to us. And we'd be very happy to have him serve on the committee. Would you like to announce his name for us?
Sure. It's Steve Leslie Randall.
Thank you very much. And thank you for all your work.
Yes.
Oh, it was a pleasure. I will get a note out to him tomorrow morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carmy, and good luck to Mr. Leslie Randolph. I'm sure he'll do well. Thank you, team.
Okay, we gotta kick you guys out now.
Kick you guys out. Okay.
Hold that,
Have
lady.
a cup of coffee or espresso. Thank you very much. Next report will be from the Recreation Department. Mary Lighthite.
Thank you, Mr. Mayoko. Good evening, everyone. COVID vaccine clinics are currently underway for our village residents. Residents that signed up for the ChemMed in Lakewood have already been notified of their appointment times on Thursday, April 8th. Our in-village COVID clinic will be held in Leisure Fair on Monday, April 12th. Rite Aid has taken over this clinic operation. Residents who registered with the Recreation Department are currently being called and assigned appointment times. If you have not registered and would like a vaccine, please call the Recreation Office at 732-657-9109 to enroll. We extend our thanks for your patience as we navigated what seemed to be an endless task. Yay. Yes, let's hear it for the vaccines. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. The
It's a great
Recreation
job. Thank
Department has worked very, very hard. We've been getting tons of emails, conversations on the phone. Why isn't the village doing something? Why can't we do it? And it's very frustrating because it's all in the CDC's hands, the Department of Health, no help from the governor during those crazy weeks and weeks and weeks of, trying to contact and get time. But thank you.
It was
Mary's
very
perseverance.
difficult. Like you say, it was very difficult trying to coordinate everything and getting people to come in. But quite honestly, when we made all these phone calls, the residents were just so gracious and so happy to, be finally getting a vaccine. So we thank them for their patience.
And you do a lot of hard work that most people don't even recognize.
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Mary and their staff for providing the residents the opportunity with that barbecue that we had that company come in. And you guys did a great job with organizing it. People coming in and picking up their food. I picked up mine. It was well organized, and just wanted to say hats off to that successful program.
Yes, well, thank you. And hopefully we can do more as things open up.
Yeah, that was a quick sellout too.
Yes.
Very good. Very good. Again, our appreciation.
Thank you.
Next, we go to the fun part, Community Manager's Report. Mr. Schultz.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I think we went over the insurance renewal enough, right?
Yes, we did.
Yeah. Cover that any further. One big one here is the FHA approval. If you will remember, when we went through the process of putting a few restrictions on our ownership, that is to say that you have to own a unit and live in it for 2 years before you can rent it out. We knew at the time when we did that, and we were involved with the FHA at that time, that things could change. Well, unfortunately, they have changed. If we want to be FHA approved again, we would have to eliminate that policy where you would have to live in the unit for 2 years before you can rent it out. I don't think the board's in favor of doing that. We want to stick with that guideline that we have. So therefore, we will not be able to renew with FHA. So that's a sad thing, the sad line in the sand they drew, but that's what they've drew on the sand, so we won't be able to get FHA approval. Resident handbook, we I think done now. I think we have a couple of things that we're going to vote on today or talk about today. That's the final pieces of it, and then we can send it out to the publisher to get it printed. The idea behind doing it now is to finally finish all of these things, all the changes that happened over the last 2 years. put that together, get it printed, but also put it online and do a line item change. Every month when the board decides that something is changed, a policy changes, we want to go back to the handbook, make those edits, put it available, vote on it, put it in our bulletins, and then also publish it online so you would see the changes as we go through. It should make things better the next time we have to do this handbook revision again. So look for that to happen very soon. Something else, the gate entry program that we're talking about doing on Colonial Drive. I don't know what's COVID. The lawyers are so busy with COVID. We've been going back and forth with the vendor, and there's multiple people and multiple companies involved with this operation. We finished up our red line numbers with our attorney. We gave it back to them, so the ball's back in their court. We got to be very near to completion of the contract so that we can move forward with the installation of the equipment so that we can have the remote entry. Also, more importantly, what we're looking forward to is that new gate entry software system that hopefully puts the control in the residents' hands, where you could log into a portal on your own, decide who you want to visit, who you don't want to visit, and you could maintain your own visitor list. We can still do it for those of you not on computer or not computer savvy, but you would be, those who are would be able to take control of that feature. So we're hopefully we'll get to the end of that long path. Next, let me skip these things because I know Jim's going to steal the day after that. Let me see if I can find this one. I got to share this. Files. Oh, let me skip that one. I'll go that up. Let me move on to flower picking while I get this other one up.
Oh, yeah.
Recently, we were made aware that someone saw a resident pull off to the side of the road near the front gate and happened to pick some of our daffodils that are there. You know, that's something to beautify the whole village. We don't anticipate residents picking up or cutting the flowers out there. It's for the enjoyment of everyone. So please, let's not have that. I know we've had it in the past. Please, if I can implore on you today not to do that kind of stuff. If we do find out who it is, of course, there'll be fines and stuff like that. But really, hopefully nobody will be doing that. Let me get this. This is the thing I wanted to show everybody. Come on, open up. Oh, geez. Sorry about that. This is. Here it comes. So the board, we didn't get to talk about this today, but I know Mr. Mayoko is aware of it because you got the email, the same email that I did from New Jersey Natural Gas. New Jersey Natural Gas wants to expand their gas lines in the village, particularly around, and we talked about this at a previous meeting, particularly around Cambridge. This is Cambridge Circle. But I've been going back and forth with them, and unfortunately, the way they have this planned and drawn out, they want to, in particular, if you'll see the orange portion around here, and including some of these red portions, they want to go into the street. Now, as everybody knows, we just paved Cambridge. I don't know what the board's opinion on this, but they're not going to come in here if we force them to go outside. But I don't think we could stand for them tearing up our new streets at the same time. They will pave, 8 feet out like they did in the other section condo near Condo 52 up front by the Leisure Fair. Remember, they paved half of the road. They would do the same thing here. But I don't know. Do we want to touch this newly paved area?
We've seen how they've patched previously.
Oh,
I'm against it.
Yeah, before we go to Joyce, so am I. When you dig up and as opposed to just resurfacing the road, when you dig up and you disturb the soil, the settlement of that soil after you surface it always gets depressed over a short period of time, just like we've seen after we had the water main break. It was a nice smooth finish that they did, but now we're starting to see the depression. And to have that entire area that we just spent quite a bit of money in resurfacing just goes against my grain. So I'm inclined to say, no, we shouldn't go forward. Ms. Carmody?
Yes, one of my questions were there many residents in that area that requested gas, installation?
I don't think so. We don't have those numbers, but what I can tell you is that she constantly, I talk about she, but it's Kathy Callahan is the representative from New Jersey Natural Gas. She constantly is looking for us to give incentives for people to join into that because they don't want to go this far if people aren't going to pick up.
Yeah.
My point is, though, there were many people I remember months ago who were inquiring about gas. And as far as I remember, that wasn't the section that those people were from, those particular people that had an outcry for gas. So I agree with Mr. Mioka to disrupt a newly paved road for people that we're not even sure want the service would not be prudent.
Mr. D'Amato?
Yeah, did they consider putting it in the lawns rather than through that new road?
Mr. Mayoko saw the emails back and
Yes,
forth, and
Mr.
I
Schultz
said,
had already requested that, but go ahead.
yeah. I think it's a no. I told her it's a no starter. If you're going to go in the streets, I would recommend. There seems to be a simple path to go around the outside of it, but they said they can't so far. But obviously, if we turn this down, they're not going to come in here anymore because they're not getting the uptick that they were asking for. Yes, residents are asking for it, but they're few and far between.
Mm-hmm.
So this may kill everything if we turn this down.
My point is, this is not the section that people requested the gas to be put in.
Can we do one call?
Mr.
Can we
Steinman?
do one call to that area and see what interest there might be?
Okay, but would you still entertain tearing that road up?
I would only entertain it if the entire width of the road was repaved.
We can lay that out to them and say that's what our
Right, we
Yeah, I
repaved
think
the road like 2 years ago, correct?
correct.
Show them the bills.
And we have a life expectancy on that.
28 years.
How many?
28 years.
Okay. That being said, we've all seen how utilities do their half road paves and the experiences we've all encountered. We have an anticipated life expectancy on a road which is just being tossed out the window if it's not the entire roadway paved. But this is my personal opinion.
We have Mr. Murphy and I think Ms. Weinstein.
So, it's a quandary, right? Because you want them to come in here for the future of offering services to our residents and our neighbors. At the same time, we just did a large expense. So I would agree the fact that I think it would be mutually beneficial for both them and us to, if they want to go through the road, then they have to pave the entire road since we just did the allocation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right, very good.
Ms. Weinstein, did you have a comment? No? Okay.
Thank you.
I think that's a general consensus that we can all embrace.
Yep.
They're either going to do the entire road or they're going to go through the grass area.
Or go through the grass would be the best. That would be the best avenue. I know we're meeting again this month, and if she's willing to come in and talk to us and the public, I'll definitely make that offer.
Okay, thank you.
Let's see. Still waiting for, no. I think we talked about all those stuff. Jim, I think tag, you're it.
All right, I'm going to go off of these two, and then I have some more on new business. First item, AZAC. Proud to say we've completed 50 of our 50 this year. 199 have now been completed. That's 28.3% of the project. There's still 511 remaining. But good news is, even in this year of COVID and a lot of downtime, we're working on units 51 and 52 right now, which will be completed by the end of April, which is our deadline. May 1st starts the next one. Next item. So that's good news. Next item is the 2020 roofing contract. I'm actually going to pull it up if you don't mind me sharing, Joe, because there's a couple things that'll make sense.
You're on it. You're on it.
When I show it. Okay, everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay. So Victor put together our roofing contract. So we've gone out to bid for our 2021 roofing project. This year's quite a big year. Projects consist of 115 units, 51 buildings, 2,531 square, including 13,244 linear foot of 6-inch gutter and leader. You know, when we do roofing now, we replace the gutters also with the larger gutters. We contacted 14 area contractors, but only received 3 bids back. That's what happens when every year you go out and they don't get their bid. Attached, you'll find the details, which the board received, along with the list. So prices include applicable permits and taxes. It's All Good Construction. Their roofing total for all those squares came in at $588,457. The next column you'll see is installed plywood. In the contract, we asked for their price per sheet to replace plywood. When we get there, usually we find a piece or two that's bad on each house. They're 20, 25-year-old roofs that are up there. And then we usually go back to the board and have to get that approved. So what we did is we figured out that it's an average of about 1 sheet of plywood per unit. So we built it into the contract price this year. So with that being said, All Good came in at $7,475 for the plywood. If it's not needed, it will not be charged, but it's there now. Gutter replacement, $92,606 for a total of $688,538.50. Roofing Masters, they came in for the roofing portion of it, $620,095. Their plywood was a little more expensive at $625. They did not bid on the gutters. So their final price, even though it looks less, is more if you add in gutters. ATI, another contractor, came in $683,370. Plywood, $10,925. Again, they didn't bid on the gutters. Total not $694,295. The notes there, as I mentioned, Roof Masters and ATI did not bid on the gutters. ATI were charging extra for ridge vents and soil pipes. They're the vent pipes that are on your roof. So no sense of even putting them in there because their price was well over the low bid. So it's our recommendation to contract with It's All Good Construction for our 2021 roofing project for a total cost of $688,538.50. This expense will be charged to GL 3270 capital replacement roofs. Just to back up 1 second, this is my first reading to give you the per square price, if that may help a little bit. All Good came in at $232.50 a square. Roof Masters came in at $245 a square, and ATI came in at $270 a square. So look for that to be voted on at our next meeting.
Thank you.
That's all I have under manager's report, but one more item I wanted to touch on. Joe, you wanted me to mention about power washing. We're making every effort to pick up the pace quite a bit this year. We've come up with a new system of the way we're doing it. We brought in some professional power washers to try and help us do this a little faster with still having some good quality. So we were able to adapt our rig to a 2-system rig. The first one is a pre-spray. If we go first through with a pre-spray and then follow behind it with the power washing, it won't be as intense power washing needed to rinse it off. So we will pick up some speed there. And we've also bought the Avant loader, if you recall, back in the winter, and that has an attachment that is going to be doing the main walkways, which will help us speed up a little bit, because a couple years back, we added the main walks on each house, which tremendously slowed us down. So look for our pace to pick up, and we hope to move a little faster this year. Mr. D'Amato.
I observed that attachment for the walkways.
Yes, we have a new one, a new demo coming because we weren't pleased with that one.
Yes, that the one we had about 2 weeks ago would not accommodate what is necessary to get our well water off the concrete.
Correct. So they are making some changes and coming back with a demo for that for us.
Okay, thank you.
Let me just add, Jim, because we did have a question from the audience.
Please do.
Arthur Pedowitz from 1171B Thornberry Lane. One of his questions was about power washing. So I think he's making a suggestion. Let's see where he was. What's the schedule for power washing in Homes and Encore in particular? I think you covered that. It's been a few years since it's been done. Personally, if I wanted a house with green siding, I would have bought one. This only is unsightly, but it is also noticed that the siding looks like there's black mold noticeable on the siding. May I suggest, to avoid these lengthy delays in power washing the homes, that the board look into purchasing a second power washing unit, and then 2 crews could work on at once at both ends of the village. So I think you touched a little bit on that, but the only thing I want to add to that, Jim, is our current method that we used last year is not good enough for residents. We need to power wash each and every home this season. And I think what you're talking about is accomplishing that. If we can separate the main walks from everything you have to do, we have to maintain a pace of over 17 units a day in a time period which we're doing. We're going to have to insist that we get above that 17 units a day. So let's make sure we do that, because that's the only thing that's going to make people happy. And putting 2 crews on is costly. Let's see if we can do that without adding 2 crews. So is that at the end of the manager stuff?
We have, Joe, the fitness center progress, the update.
Oh, Jim, you had that too, right? Did you get pictures?
You're on mute.
I'm on mute. I have a couple pictures of what it looks like right now. It's going to fall into the next part about the Willow exterior, which is holding us up a little bit on the windows, but I will share what we're looking like right now. Let me get rid of that. This is where we are with the picture with them right now. The room is gutted. We took the wall down. This ductwork that's down the center, we've received bids. We're getting rid of that and putting that circular ductwork right down the middle, sort of that industrial look. The we received all our bids for our electricians, and that is our next step. The electrician's coming in. We've met with them. We've placed where everything's going, TVs and treadmills and exit lights and emergency lighting and all that. So he has the approval to now go ahead. That's one view. Let me see if I can get another one. Another view. The walls are all gutted. So we're moving along. We're going to get the electrician and then sheetrock. We're going to have two entrances, one at each end. Here's my last picture. That kind of gives a view right down the middle. So these windows are going to be replaced. My next report I talk about is going to be Willow exterior and windows, and that'll incorporate that. So we are moving. The room is gutted. Electric is started. The HVAC is started.
Thank you. Before we go to unfinished business, just some reminders for everybody, lest we forget some of the rules and regulations that we talk about over and over, and sometimes we tend to forget them. Overnight parking, we had many problems. We sent out a crew during the night shift, had some violations, they were notified. Had some more violations, they were fined, so that will continue. Remember to use in-ground containers for your garbage. Do not place them at the curbside. We're seeing an increase in speeding on the main roads, as well as crossing double line, which is an illegal motor vehicle violation. Not only that, on the curbs, it is very dangerous. You have intersections, cars coming into you. If you're crossing the double line, to cause major damage, not to mention the loss of lives. The other thing that we're noting is more and more people have the retractable dog leashes. This is very dangerous. I've seen now a couple of times where two residents had their dogs get out of control. Once you go to an extended leash, it is very difficult to control your dog or cats if you have them on a leash. The other thing too is coming cars. If they dart out into the street, there's no way you're going to be able to pull that pet back. So please safeguard your pets. Keep a 5 foot or 6 foot leash. Common grounds landscaping. We didn't talk about this before, but I'm sure at some point in time we're going to send out crew to check for violations. So please stay ahead of that and take care of your tall bushes, tall trees. They should not be above the window. We will remind you of those in the future. We do not want to send the fines. We just want everybody to adhere to the guidelines. And please do not steal our plants. Maintenance does a great job in beautifying our village. Let's keep it that way. If you need something, call maintenance, call the grounds chief, the office, see what the issue is. Okay, Joe, now we have amenities. I know we talked about that in the waivers. The floor is yours.
Okay, I just remembered one more thing under the community managers report, and that is I've been asked about construction work just out 70. If most of you should be able to see there, that's the construction for putting up new traffic lights. So that's what that constructor are nearly done with the foundations for that. The wiring is just about done. So they should clean that up. The piles of sand there, that should be cleaned up. They're ready to go on and clean that up. And then after that, of course, the new traffic lights would come in. But that's, in case anybody's wondering, that's that. So on to unfinished business, open amenities. We talked about waivers. So we just went over that today in closed session and an open session. We'll have the waivers for the COVID, for any amenities. We'll have that ready for everybody. Next is Verizon. Verizon, there's two things that we're dealing with them on. Number one is the pedestals. They promised us verbally, they promised us that the pedestals would be removed after they were finished doing all the installations. You were told you had to get off of your copper lines because that's going away. Unfortunately, they're telling us that there's dozens of people still left on copper wire. They won't tell us who they are. So this is going to get a little bit messy again with Verizon because they're not holding up to their end of the bargain about taking those ugly pedestals out. So we're still working on that. Number two with Verizon is they promised you that you could, if you had Verizon Wireless and Fios here in the village, that you could actually get a discount if you marry them together. Well, guess what? That did not work. They told us it was a go. They told us to tell you it was a go. And I don't know if anybody was able to complete that process. So they acknowledged it. They understand it's a problem with their bulk agreement portion of the company. They're working to straighten that out. But as of today, right now, it is not fixed, unfortunately. So as soon as it does, we will make a one call to let everybody know again. And that was it under unfinished business. Then we go into new business. If you're ready. Oh, Willow bathrooms, you covered that.
Take a deep breath. Here we go.
Yeah,
Do we have to cover any more of that? We're good, right?
we're good on that.
Okay. Willow exterior.
I'm going to ask you, Joe, to share your rendition,
Yeah.
and I will speak behind it if you don't mind.
Yep. No,
The rest of them I'll share.
we're good.
So I'm looking for approval of a concept here right now from the board. And it kind of ties into the gym, as I mentioned a little bit before. This has been on goals and objectives for quite some time, is to redo the exterior of Willow Hall. It got pushed back a couple times, but it's an A rating for 2021, which is now. This has been funded for years and years, and it's time to finally make the move. So I'm looking for the board to give me the concept approval right now and at least allow me to start the process of ordering the windows. The windows are 8 to 12 weeks out to get windows. The sooner I can order them, the better. We've gone out to bid for the windows to have a contractor come out and replace them. There's 24 windows in the building. They're about $1,100 each window for a total of a little more than $27,000 for the windows. Now, the final number, once the order is placed, will not exceed that portion at all. That is our worst case scenario right now. So I'm looking for the board to give me the approval to go ahead with the window portion. So there'll be 24 windows around Willow Hall. It'll also will put the vinyl cedar shakes up around the building, color to be determined yet. That would also have a contractor do that. They would replace the windows and all the siding on the building. We're talking about putting some decorative shutters next to the windows, colors to be decided. We'll clean up these columns right here in the front. And there's two in the front of the building too, going into the auditorium. So we'll make them a little bit nicer. There they are there. So we'll build them out, give them a little dimension, and add new soffit lighting all around the building, and a few miscellaneous things as needed. So the project right now, it's $75,000 to $80,000 to do the building. I'm looking for the approval at least to start with the windows right now, so I can get those ordered by our next meeting, which we've agreed is in 2 weeks. I will have the final number so the board can make an approval on the final number for the exterior of Willow Hall.
We have Miss Weinstein and then Mr. Murphy.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve this concept and give Jim the authority to go and order the windows and get this process going. The windows are kind of key to doing the gym and being able to complete the gym. So the longer we put this off, the longer it'll take. So that's my motion.
I second that
I
one.
second.
Before we go vote, Mr. Murphy, you had your hand raised?
Yeah, no, that's good. I was going to make the motion.
Oh, okay, thank you. Any
Yep.
comments from other members of the board? I also think it's a good idea. This has been a project long coming. We need to spruce up that building. The colors will be determined later, but it looks good. Okay, Ms. Coker?
Mr. Simon,
Yes.
Mr. Hardman,
Yes.
Mr. Murphy,
Yes.
Ms. Carmody,
Yes.
Mr. D'Amato,
No.
Ms. Weinstein,
Yes.
Mr. Myoko,
Yes.
motion carried.
So there's going to be more of this kind of thing. And I think Mr. Steinman had said it in our closed session that we want to reiterate a number of times that this is coming out of reserve money, which has been collected over many, many years, 20, 30 years. Some of this has been collected. It's reserved. We need to do this type of work. Otherwise, we spiral into the ground and nobody's going to want to move here anymore if we don't keep up with the amenities. So that's the first one. Let's get to more. So
Mr. Steinman, you had your hand up. Is that what you
No.
wanted to mention?
Joe just said what I was going to say.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
Good teamwork. Okay, I'm going back to sharing now. Here is another project that's been reserved for quite a long time. If I can find my PowerPoint. There we go. Okay, again, this is the greenery room at Club Encore. This has been a goals and objectives for quite some time. It has a 2021 date on it, so we are moving forward with presenting the cost for this project. We've gone out to bid and got an architect in to look at this glass structure, this atrium here. We've been developing some issues over the years. Anybody that's in there knows that we're having issues with that sliding glass door on the side. The windows are condensating. They've lost their R value. They leak. So we went out to an architect and we got some plans together on redoing this room. So this is what it looks like as is today. This is the inside. And again, note that this is the Queen Mary bar that was taken off of the cruise ship, the Queen Mary, some years ago. And this was an accent piece for this room. We're looking at still keeping that there and utilizing this as our accent piece. So this is what it looks like on the inside. This is the architecture, the architect's drawings of what we're doing. That glass structure in the back will be removed. We will have glass panels with a automatic push button sliding door in the back and along on the side. It'll have a real roof now, not the glass roof. This will enable us to put some ceiling fans, some better lighting. So it will have a roof. We may even in the future be able to expand our solar panels. We're still working on that portion, but we do need to remove a few and reinstall them once this roof is done. We're talking about this being the grand entry from the lobby and installing doors similar to this in this opening right here. So the room can be isolated off if desired, or they can be left open when not in use to show the room. So we would put these kind of doors here, and just know that we would mimic those doors when we get to redoing the auditorium. We would use the same kind of doors and also at the library. So again, this is where we would put exterior automatic sliding doors. This one on the side I mentioned going out to the grill, and one dead center here going out to the patio. This is the spec sheet on the doors. It's a sliding door that opens up. This is a little picture of, you get a better look and understanding of what it'll do, what it'll be. It'll be a push button. You push it on the inside, it'll open. We will adapt it to have swipe access on the outside. It'll also have a feature that we can leave them open, or in case there's a party in there using guests and whatnot. So we're addressing that issue. We will be replacing the flooring. This is the floor we're talking right here. If anybody can see that, I have a sample. That's what the floor will look like in the room. We will add LED lighting, pendant lighting at the bar, ceiling recessed lighting, and some decorative under the counter bar lighting to accent the Queen Mary bar. Ceiling fans can now be put in there. That's always been asked for, getting some nice air movement in there in all the rooms. So we'll have room to put them in there now. And my thought was to again complement the bar that we have there with some artwork going with the Queen Mary theme. The cost associated with it is a big number, but again, this is something that the residents have been reserving for years and years, and it's come to fruition now to do the project. So it's a $108,000 project, soup to nuts, with a contractor. The only part we would do is some minor concrete work when we blow that back wall out. They would do the demo, they'll haul away all the debris. They'll do all the codes, everything that's needed, pull the permits, do the whole bit. The memo I have, we've been asked to obtain an architect to draw up the plans for the redesign and renovation of Club Encore Greenery Room. Mr. Schultz and I met the architect in mid-July to discuss the ideas of the redesign and renovation. The board has approved the concept, and below are the costs, which I spelled out already. So if the board does wish to move forward with the project, it would be our recommendation to contract with ATIA True Builders, Inc. for a cost of not to exceed $110,000. This expense will be charged to GL 3230 Capital Replacement Common Buildings. And I just want to show you from a picture of what the floor will look like. Encore Greenery with the tile. That's kind of what the tile will look like. You get a little. I lost you?
You gotta share it. You gotta share it.
I gotta share that. So let me go back to share. Sorry. Share, and let me go back. How about now?
Yeah, there we are.
So that's kind of what that tile will look like when it's down. We'll pick up some of the accent colors and we'll decide wall colors. So that's where we are on that project. Look for that at our next meeting for further discussion. The board has been presented this memo, so any comments?
Yes, Jim.
Yes, ma'am.
May I please request to have this PowerPoint put on the creeper so people could look it over at their leisure and look at it a little harder and longer than the flash, presentation here, which was good.
Yeah, I
but
got
so
you.
we could really look at it.
Yeah, not a problem. If the board wishes to do that, I can make sure it's up by the beginning of next week. I can have both my PowerPoints up if you'd like.
Thank you.
Good idea.
Yeah, it's a great idea. So that's that, Mr.
Snyder. Murphy.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, this project's been a long time coming. Community got a lot of use out of that room, but there's dollars going out those windows that you're just not seeing. And I think it's going to add value and enjoyment to everyone in the community.
Yes.
Great job with the plans, Jim.
Well, it was a group effort. Everybody chipped in. I just threw it all together, but thank you to everybody's input. If I may move on, sir, I'd like to go to the next item. I'm going to share again.
Gotcha. Hey, Jim,
Sir?
as a prerequisite, you might have to send some of this to finance.
Not a problem. I'll, I'll share it all with finance first, and then we'll take it from there.
I know we gave them the list of projects that we're doing, but they didn't see these details.
Not a problem. We'll make that happen, and that'll, not a big deal. Share. I don't get of that one. Oh, I gotta stop sharing that. I gotta start all over.
Yep,
Sorry, guys.
no biggie.
Not so easy, is it?
No, it's
No.
not. I'm still there. How do I get rid of that one, Joe?
You got to close it on your computer.
Okay,
Close it on your computer.
there you go.
Open the one you want and then hit share.
There you go. I'm there now. Sorry.
Biggie.
We're gonna show Encore flooring. That's.
Yep.
Here's the next item we went out for bid on replacing the flooring in Club Encore. We've been asked to obtain the cost associated with replacing the flooring. Again, this is something that has been reserved and funds have been received for quite a few years. It again is a 2021 goals and objectives. So we've gone out and got some samples of what we're talking about. We're replacing the floors in the lobby, going with tile in the lobby, tile in the hallway, and the tile I showed you in the greenery room. Then in the media room, card room, music room, the gym, the office, closet, storage, and computer room will all get a commercial vinyl, similar to what we put in the coffee shop, but a little bit even more commercial quality. It's got a 15-year heavy commercial warranty with it. So I'm going to go room by room now. This is the card room. This is what it would look like with the flooring replaced in there. The music room, which might become a new game room or something, that's what the flooring will look like in there. The media room, that carpet will come up. That's our flooring in there. The gym, it's going to be the new billiard room, the flooring in there, and it will handle the heavy pool tables. It'll also, if we move forward to the auditorium, this type of product will also handle chairs and all that. This is the lobby before. This isn't such a great picture, but the next one I think really shows it well. This is the hallway before and what the tile looks like after. It's a great new look, I think. The board did have quite a few. We met many times to look at different tiles and different options. I'm well known at the tile stores in town right now, but this is what we've chosen. I think it's beautiful. We can pick up any colors we'd like off of it on our walls and our trim. But this is also the floor we would put in the lobby that would also go into the greenery room. So back to the memo on top. If the board wishes to move forward with the aforementioned, flooring, too many floors, and it would be our recommendation to contact with ATIA True Builders, same one that bid on the greenery room, which is why we're getting this number. And I'm going to ask Mr. Schultz to jump in because he also got some quotes for some flooring. This expense would be charged to GL 3230 Capital Replacement Common Buildings. So I'm going to stop sharing. This will be my first read on this. Mr. Schultz, I don't know if you have
Keep going again. I got to find that one again.
Oh, sorry, we caught you off guard. So a lot of projects on the Verizon, but again, they are all on the wish list and goals and objectives for 2021. And we've been collecting the funds for a real long time. Mr. Steinman, I'm sorry.
Yeah, just, for our fellow residents, the reason why all of this is on the agenda today, the perfect time to do all the work that's going on in Encore and Willow is now while things are closed down because of COVID. And the board has thought hard that this could have been spread out over time, but it did not make sense. Now that we don't have the traffic in these buildings, it makes perfect sense to do it all pretty much at once. And I know that Mr. Schultz is going to show you the bargain we're getting on some of this flooring.
So this is, originally went out to bid. I got a commercial flooring contractor. And this is basically covering the same thing, except it wasn't the tile that Jim's showing you. So you can see it's $77,000, almost $78,000 to do basically what Jim has this contractor doing, the one that's doing the greenery.
And that's why we're getting such a good deal. His demo crew is going to be in there. So they're going to be able to rip the floor up while we're doing it. So it's kind of a package deal in order to get the good deal. So I believe I am done with all my stuff, folks.
Yes, and Jim and Joe, just to remind everybody at home, it's been taking quite some time to put this together. This was not an overnight task. So during those quiet times of COVID season and midwinter, the board and management was busy trying to figure out what's best to do for improving the appearances and modernizing of our halls. So good work.
Jim, you're also going to come back next meeting, right? Because there's another thing that's on the agenda for the auditorium.
Yeah, that I do have a picture of the flooring, but we're still working on the acoustical part of it. We're talking about also redoing the auditorium, which has been talked about for years and years. It's on the goals and objectives again for 2021. I have most of the pricing in. I'm still working on the acoustical panels portion of it. So I don't want to show my hand yet, if that's okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to let people know because it's on the agenda. We're gonna hold off on that one.
Yep.
Yeah, and
Somebody had questions.
the residents at home, again, Mr. Snyder has mentioned goals and objectives for 2021. The goals and objectives get reviewed by the board every year. So many years ago, board anticipated that at some point in time, we were going to spend X amount of money to modernize some of the facilities as well as the equipment that's needed here. Updates are always looked at and projected in the near future so that, it can be planned out. And that's in essence what we are doing is it's been planned out. And now we're in the action mode to implement. So, for those at home who are just hearing now for the first time goals and objectives, it's done and every year. And it's reviewed. I think this board has reviewed it semi-annual at least. So,
yep.
Okay. I'm sorry. Okay. Next line item.
So the
Lou?
Yes, sir.
Joy has her hand up.
May I just?
Yes.
I'd just like to make a quick, and I'll be quick. In the past, so many times residents have asked, what's the real cost of the project because our people were doing it. I think it's a good idea that Jim and Joe have arranged to have outside contractors do most of the work because we do have our great crew of maintenance people, but this will mean that there'll be no diminished services just because we're having all these improvements done, that our own people will still be coming to our own homes. Would that be correct, gentlemen?
Yes,
Yes,
it would
ma'am,
be.
absolutely.
Yes, ma'am.
It's not the right time of year for us to get into that kind of thing. The dead of the winter is good for us.
I know.
Not this time of year. We wouldn't be able to do it anyway in-house.
But it's good that this is the real cost. People always ask, but really what does it cost? Because we have our own men doing it. This way we have contractors doing it. So this is really the cost.
Exactly.
That's what I was trying to say. Thank you.
Okay, next was the revision for specification 2_9, installation of new construction windows and Encore models. That is basically, I don't know if you wanted to take this, Tom, or I can talk about it. Basically, it is, we made this change in the rest of the village besides Encore. We made the change to allow people to have grids or no grids if they replace the windows on one side of the building. So if they're gonna do windows on one side, they have to do them all if they want to do away with grids or reinstall grids. It has to be the whole facade, the whole section. What we didn't do is add the same specification to Encore, and that's basically what we're doing here, making it equal to what the rest of the village can do. So this, if approved by the board, this would allow residents in Encore to not have grids if they so desire, as long as it's on one complete side of the building. Okay, so look forward to that. Hopefully we'll be voting on that soon. What is next? The specification 1_1. So here is, when we were doing the handbook, we came across some situations that we didn't quite understand what it meant in the specifications. So in particular, if you look at this one, it's letter G. Nobody really quite understand what that meant, but basically what it means, and we correct it in line or paragraph F, is any type of siding. So whether it's masonry or stucco or aluminum siding, any of that siding, you must have a little reveal 2 to 4 inches below that siding, because we don't want you to build up mulch or any other ground cover on there where it gives a pathway for termites to get up. So that's the important part. And we just tried to make it a little bit clearer here by taking that out and including it up here in F that says any and all siding materials that have to be done. Next on here is, it's also labeled G here because we got rid of that G. So it's paragraph G, the new paragraph G. It's really to take account for people that put stone or gravel in their 5-foot area. We want to make sure that if you do that, you have some type of edging material around that, so that stone doesn't relocate itself to the turf area where the mowers would pick up on it and shoot that through someone's window. So that's basically what that correction is here. We want to make, if you do stone, gravel, we want you to have a border in there. Next, it's listed as paragraph 8 or line 8. Line H rather, borders. This was in there previously. Somewhere it dropped along the years. We need to specify, because if you're going to have a stone border, a block border, which some people do, it shouldn't be any higher than 6 inches. So that's why we tried to clarify that in this paragraph here. It was missing. We got to make sure it's there. So that's the changes to specification 1_1, which will have to get approved because we're changing it in the handbook as well. So look for us to vote on that. The policy for parking. We had, again, this was because we did the handbook. We had some changes that we had to make to this parking. Are they highlighted in here? I think they are. There it is. So in particular with the violations, we want to make sure people are adhering to the parking rules and regulations of Leisure Village West. So in order to do so, we want to issue you a fine. It will be assessed for the first violation. People should know you can't park overnight. We've been over this 100 times already. You're not supposed to park in the street overnight between the hours of 2 and 6 a.m. In addition, if you continue to do that, we've increased the fine to $75 here. So that's the biggest change. However, I think a couple board members are questioning the language when it comes to snow removal portion of this, snow parking. Does this not meet what we talked about when we were talking about the handbook changes?
Joe?
Yep.
I made a notation on page 2 where it's saying residents must park in the garage. I thought the verbiage was going to read that if possible.
I don't have a recollection of that.
I remember that too.
Sam, you remember that you said?
Yeah.
Okay. Because we didn't have it written down when we did.
Yes,
the
me
check.
too.
Yeah.
And also on page 3, all cars must be removed from the streets is acceptable. But you also say, and driveways. Again, it addresses the issue of a 2-vehicle house where the second vehicle would be sitting on the driveway.
Okay. Sam, do you understand where they're talking about doing this now?
You're right there now.
You're right at under snow parking.
No parking.
Your sentence.
Well, page 2, you wanted to say residents must park in their garage if possible.
Correct. That's what we had agreed upon.
And what's the other change?
On page 3, again, we're stating all cars must be removed from the streets and driveways. I was under the impression that driveways was removed, that it was going to read all cars must be removed from the streets. Because in the case of 2 cars with 1 garage, you'll have a second car on the driveway.
Yes.
Al, my recollection was that driveways, if possible.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what I, that's the, that's the
That
way I
phrase, if
remember.
possible, came up a number of times.
Yeah,
Correct.
so
Yeah,
it should say driveways if possible.
if
Right.
possible, right.
I concur. Then on page 3, where we state children on bicycles must be accompanied by an adult. Are we defining a children as someone of the age of 16 and up or younger?
Hopefully 16 and below are children.
Yes, I mean, with Mr. Steinman being with the
Yep.
consistency
Consistent.
that we define a child as someone being the age of 16 and above.
I don't think it was 16. Hold on.
No, I don't think so either.
All right, maybe we're talking 14, but I'm looking at the consistency with the pool. Perhaps it's 15.
Give me just 1 second.
Well, technically, right, they're supposed to be with a resident.
It's guess we were saying 15 and above for other things. So
Yes.
Okay, so then the children on a bicycle would be defined as 15.
And below,
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
correct.
15 and below.
Yep.
So we have the consistency, as Mr. Steinman pointed out.
Of course, in a lot of other things, we say that guests must be accompanied by a resident.
Yeah,
It says,
It
bicycle share.
doesn't say resident, it says adult.
I can change that if the board wishes.
Yeah.
Well, that would be holding, the only thing wrong with that is that would be holding back a lot of grandchildren taking a ride around the development with their parents.
Yeah,
That would be
Adult
kinda
is
mean.
fine with me.
I think an adult.
I would
is
leave
fine.
adult.
I say adult.
Yeah,
Good.
we don't want to be too mean.
That do it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's it.
All righty.
There's
Next
more.
thing, next thing on the agenda is the policy resolution regarding board members' code of conduct and confidentiality.
Mhm.
So this is the first time anyone is seeing this. Look for us to vote, unless there's comments, look for us to bring up this at the next meeting and vote on this for approval.
And this will also be in the document section of the Creeper, correct?
Correct,
Once it's adopted.
correct.
Well, even now, I think.
No, it's not been approved.
No?
once it's
Okay.
done- Once it's done and approved, that's right, Mr. Steiner.
All right, I think that does everything that's on our list. Let me just check. I got another list here to go through.
You're a nice fellow.
Sorry. That. Oh, here's one that was also from Art Pedowitz. Wanted to update on how many residents have passed away in the village from COVID-19. And I had to respond to him, which I'll tell everybody now. The only records I have, our records show that 12 people have passed away, with the remainder of 8 people that either recovered or we didn't get an update from. Ever since maybe 2 or 3 months into the pandemic, nobody's been coming forward with giving us information on what's happening on their end. Hopefully everybody's doing well, but they're not letting us know. Unfortunately, we haven't gotten updates from people in a long, long time. So that's the update on that. We talked about power washing. Is there a schedule as to when homes in the
Schultz? Can you remove the,
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't notice it. There we go.
here we go. Thank you.
I still have to bring it up for me, though. There it is. Oh, wrong one. Okay. He also talked about, is there a schedule as to when homes in the Encore section may be painted on the outside? After 30 plus years, almost all the homes need a refresh. So Jim, I think you had the number. When did we start our 25-year painting program?
1999.
1999. So we're not quite done with the first round of, we started at condo 1 and we're going all the way up to condo 99. We're not quite there yet. What do we got? About another 4 years or so, 5 years maybe to finish the first go through, like the Golden Gate Bridge. We're going to go through, and then we have to talk about starting over again. So that's siding. That's aluminum siding, or there's a few homes up there in the last section that might have vinyl, but for the most part, it's aluminum siding. So we're not there yet. So we will be power washing. That's what we have to do. Finally, while the work was done quickly on replacing the broken water main and repaving the road, there are 2 areas of the road which sink in. When we're driving this section of Buckingham, you can feel it, right? You go up and down on that one. So we're talking about going out to bid again for paving this year. There's a couple sections. What we want to do is come back to the board with a short section of Buckingham to replace what's there, because it's all chopped up, like you said. That water main break was horrendous. It lifted up that road in so many places, and it's settling now. So hopefully that it's settled enough, we'll be able to come over there and repave that section, perhaps from right where the break was all the way down to the bridge, which is a couple hundred feet. So we're talking about doing that. In addition, we may also do that little section by the 37 gate. That's getting chopped up in a little area there. So hopefully we do a little patch there as well, besides fixing some of the potholes there. I think that was the end of the written questions, but we do have 2 people waiting in the waiting room.
Before we do, are we going into audience comments?
Are we going to what?
What are the people waiting for?
That's the audience.
Okay, so we're still in the board meeting. If there are any comments or questions from the board before we conclude?
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. D'Amato.
Yes, I would just like to reiterate to residents to not be feeding the cats in the RV parking lot. We have an excessive amount of litter because of someone is feeding the feral animals over there.
Go ahead, Jim.
Mr. Snyder.
Can I add, please don't feed the geese either?
Oh, yes.
We've
Please.
spent last few years getting rid of the geese population. Thank you for bringing that up. And down at Sterling Lake, we've been finding some food left out for the geese. So please don't feed the geese. They will not leave. Thank you.
The only thing I would add to the feeding the cats thing, you do know the township has a trap, neuter, and release program, which some of our residents they take part in. They are registered cat caregiver, feral cat caregivers. So you will see that. So hopefully it's not someone in that section with the RVs.
Mr. Murphy.
Yeah, but there's one thing about feeding, like you're saying, they're part of that cat program. But when they're leaving it, and then what they've left for the cats to eat, they're just leaving all the garbage.
Yeah.
So
I'm saying they're supposed to be feeding the cats, then pulling that away.
Correct.
Right. But
Right.
I just wanted to be aware, because we did have an incident recently that I got a call from Margaret. There is a person in here that is doing, this was probably more, that are part of the trap, neuter, and release program.
Correct.
Weren't we supposed to be notified who those individuals are in the past? I thought that was always.
Well, we used to have Sue Nordell was pretty much the chairperson of it, and we used to get updates from her all the time. I don't get them so much from Margaret. Margaret's she's one person, does the whole township. She's super busy.
Right.
But I'll see if she can furnish us a list if that's possible.
Any other comments or questions?
Yeah.
All right, then this board meeting is now adjourned. Thank you. We will now go to audience comments. And I ask that anyone who calls in, we will not be accepting any questions or comments concerning the two topics that were previously discussed during our open meetings in the essence of time and redundancy. So we will now open up the phone lines for the calls.
Okay, caller, you're on.
Good evening. This is Donna San Clemente, Liverpool Circle. First, I'd love to thank all of you for opening up, even not totally, but opening up some amenities for us this year. I think a lot of us will appreciate that. I had a comment about garbage at the street, and I understand that no one really wants to have bags of garbage there and all the problems that it brings. But what's happening is that the folks that are picking up the garbage are walking across the lawns. And I know in order to get to my garbage can, you have to go up my driveway. And, my lawn is really awful. I mean, it's beyond awful. And because we've had so much rain, the footprint that's being created is just making the lawn that's awful even worse. So I don't know if it's feasible to relocate these underground garbage can bins to the curb, at the foot of the driveway in that little corner. I don't know if that's feasible at all, but this is what's happening when they come up to the house. They're walking across the lawns, and it's not good. So
okay, thank you.
That's my comment.
Maintenance and the management will assess the situation. I don't foresee that we are going to be looking towards relocating the bins to down by the street for obvious reasons. You have to, one, it's a lower area, so it's going to congregate more water when it rains. Secondly, we have to take care of where the utility lines run in. But we'll investigate the matter. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hello, caller, you're on.
Hi, this is Janet Ritter from 72C Cambridge Circle, and good evening. Getting back to the gas installation, Was there any official notification about installing the gas? We haven't received any info asking us if we want to install it or what it would cost or anything. We've heard like little chitter chatter in the neighborhood. And in fact, one neighbor said that they were coming through the right of way. And, you know, so I'm just wondering, are they going to send something out? We didn't have a chance to vote or say, yes, we wanted to have it or no, or anything.
So did you see the earlier part of the meeting where I showed the path that they want to take?
I didn't. We came in at 7 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Yeah.
So,
I did.
So they have told us that they want to go to Cambridge and do just about the whole outside of Cambridge, not the center part of the circle, but the outside. But their drawings where they want to put the gas line is in the road, and they're going to cut the roads up to do that. You live there. We just paved those roads recently, right?
Yes.
So we're going to go back to them and say, you know, we'd love for you to come in. We'd love for you to do this, but we don't want you cutting up our roads. And if you do, we want you to pave them entirely, which I know is going to be a deal breaker for them.
Okay. And then can they add what the cost would be for us as homeowners? Because somebody said that they called the company and they said that if we install it and add it to one appliance, that there would be no charge for bringing it to the house.
Correct.
Now, I don't know if that's true or...
No, that is true. That is true. There wouldn't be, as long as you took one appliance, and it probably would have to be a heater or something like that, there's no cost to you. However, you got to pay for whatever you're buying to put in there, you know, a heater or whatever.
Exactly.
Right? So that
yes.
What you heard is true. And I did, in the preliminary stages of this, where they told me they were going to go, I supplied them with all the addresses to those homes per condo. So I gave them an entire list of where they're going. No names, of course, no phone numbers, but the addresses so they can direct mail you to see if you want it. But they're not they're not at that stage. And frankly, if they don't change the methodology, I don't see it happening unless they can go in the grass, you know, not in the street, or agree to pave the street, which is highly unlikely.
Right. And the suggestion is why can they use the right of way or come down in front of, like, I'm 72C, so I face the farm.
Yep.
And why not use that side instead of coming through the road?
That's what I've asked them. So hopefully they'll send it back to their engineering department to come up with a better plan. If they're willing to meet with us, with the board, and talk about other possibilities, we're glad to meet with them. But at current, the way they're stating that they want to do it, it seems like it's a deal breaker.
Okay. Well, thank you. I'm sorry I held you up. I'm guessing everybody wants to go to bed now.
Good questions.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. That's all I see. I don't see anybody else waiting.
No one else is up.
But it's not 10 o'clock yet.
Thank you, everybody at home. Stay safe. Hope you have a great rest of the spring, and hopefully this COVID will begin to subside and we can go back to normal.
We'll see you in 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
And we
2
will be
weeks.
meeting in 2 weeks. Thank you. Have a
Good
good
night,
night,
everyone.
everybody.
Good night.
Good night, Gracie.